He cries after sex. What a pathetic loser. My girlfriend laughed, mocking me in front of coworkers. I stayed silent and walked away. Years later, I saw her again and said just 2 words. She fell to her knees and cried. No, this can't be. I just cannot pretend anymore, my girlfriend said, standing up with a glass of wine in her hand. He is sweet, but he cries afterwards, like every time. A laugh like a match thrown on dry grass. First a few snickers from her coworkers, and then full-blown laughter around the table. One guy even clapped. Emily, I murmured, my eyes fixed on the flickering candle in front of me, hoping maybe it could burn a hole in the floor and swallow me whole. Oh, come on, she laughed, tossing her highlighted hair over her shoulder. I mean, he has been out of work for 4 months. He still says he is, between opportunities. She made air quotes, mocking. And the Xanax prescription, honey, maybe you should try not leaving it in the medicine cabinet if you want to keep it a secret. Her friend Melissa choked on her drink. Girl, you are savage. Emily winked at her boss. Her boss, who was watching with that smug little smile human resources people get when they think they are witnessing real personality. My fork never made it to my mouth. There was silence on my part, not a single word. I did not scream. I did not call her a liar. I did not mention how she begged me to just stay home and clear my head after the layoff. How she said, it is okay. I will cover the rent. You covered me when I was finishing grad school, remember? Or how she cried when I told her I did not want to go tonight, that I had a bad feeling. I stood up, buttoned my jacket, and left before dessert. No one followed me, hell, no one even noticed. And maybe that is when it all clicked. The whole time I thought I was the quiet one in the room. But silence is not weakness. Its patience is weaponized. People think the most dangerous guy in the room is the one who yells. No, it is the guy who listens, watches, waits. If you are listening to this and you have not subscribed yet, please do. Over 97% of you just listen without clicking that little button. But when you do, it tells the team we are on the right track, that this matters, that a revenge story told in whispers still cuts deep. Anyway, I walked 5 blocks to the train station with my face frozen, not in rage, not in shame, but in calculation. Have you ever heard your own heartbeat in your ears, but still appear calm? That was me. By midnight, my phone was off. By dawn, I was gone. No goodbyes, no closure. Only one thing was missing from the drawer, a folded picture of my mom and me at a Mets game, taped at the corners, creased from years of moves. The rest, left behind like dead skin. A woman once asked me, how do you recover from something like that? You don't recover, you transform. Because when someone burns your name to make a joke, they expect smoke, not silence. And the truth is, silence scares them more. I did not slam the door on my way out. I locked it gently, checked it twice like I always did, and left the keys on the kitchen table next to a half-used roll of paper towels and a fruit bowl no one would eat. There was no note, no last word, no tragic post begging for attention. The building's hallway light flickered once as I left. I remember that. It is strange the details you register when your world is ending, but you are still polite enough not to wake the neighbors. Inside my backpack, passport, bank token, a USB drive, the crumpled photo of mom and me, hugging, both middle-aged, in front of a hot dog stand. That is it. I left the suits, the books, the dishes, even the notebooks filled with months of therapy exercises and half-written goals. My phone, factory reset, SIM card removed. Social media deleted, not deactivated. A complete wipe. I disappeared from the world as if I had never existed. My apartment lease was terminated via an auto-signed email from a secure proxy. By the time my landlord knocked on the door 3 days later, the only sound in the place was the hum of the refrigerator and the faint smell of cologne lingering in the closet. It was not a breakdown, it was a launch. People mistake retreat for surrender. But when you are cornered, disappearing is not giving up. It is stepping back far enough to see the whole blueprint. Somewhere between the train ride out of the city and the layover in Denver, I stopped being a victim. I started drawing plans. No one knew where I went because I did not go anywhere in the conventional sense. I floated, checked into cheap motels using variations of my middle name. I paid in cash, ate cheap, watched people, took notes. I did not speak unless I had to. I wanted to hear the world without filtering it through anyone else's opinion. You would be surprised how clear everything becomes when no one is telling you what you should feel. Meanwhile, she kept posting, making her little comedy skits. My ex vanished after I publicly humiliated him. One caption read, with a fake crying emoji and 2.3 million views. The funny thing was, she was not wrong. I had vanished, but the humiliation, that was not the final blow, it was just the fuse. And while she was chasing clout, I was hoarding silence like it was currency. Somewhere quiet in Maine, in a rental cabin with a cracked window and a flickering space heater, I read a book on systems design from cover to cover, and I thought, what if grief could be automated into fuel? What if I built something no one could trace back to me, but everyone had to respect? That was the night I gave it a name. 2 words. Not catchy, not brandyable, not even grammatically exciting, but simple, honest, immutable, and most importantly, faceless. Because the moment you disappear, you stop being you in their story, you become something they cannot define. And fear, real fear, lives in the unknown. The clip was only 47 seconds long, but it was enough. It started mid-laugh, her red wine in hand, saying, he cries after sex. The editing was precise. The subtitles, bold. A little sound effect dinged every time the crowd laughed. Her TikTok bio changed overnight. High voltage savage honesty equals free therapy high voltage. The comments poured in. Queen behavior crowned. Some men just cannot handle a joke. LOL. Imagine getting roasted and literally disappearing scald. She leaned into it hard. She turned the clip into a whole series, dating disasters with M. She told stories, exaggerated more, fabricated just enough to keep the algorithm salivating. Her follower count tripled in a month. Brand deals slid into her inbox. An interview titled, "Humor is Healing. How a Viral Humiliation Set Me Free," was syndicated. The host called her brave, but brave was not what people were whispering behind the scenes. One of her co-workers, Kyle from accounting, pulled her aside after a meeting. "Hey, are you okay with all this? I mean, you looked really broken in that clip." She waved it off. "Kyle, it is called content. It is not that deep." But then the email started. A small podcast she was scheduled to be a guest on indefinitely rescheduled. Then a beauty brand that had offered her a modest sponsorship, a subscription box for cruelty-free lipstick, suddenly pulled out due to internal strategy shifts, the email said. But when she checked their latest campaign post, the lead influencer was someone who had once commented, "Oof, that video went too far." Then, human resources called her in. The guy running the meeting was new, a clean-cut type transferred from the legal department. He sat across from her with a tablet and said, "We have received a few complaints." She rolled her eyes. "Let me guess. Misogyny disguised as moral outrage." He did not smile. "Some employees felt uncomfortable at the last team dinner. They said your content blurs the lines between personal and professional, that perhaps you created a hostile work environment." "I created a hostile work environment," she snapped, leaning forward. "He is the one who disappeared. I made a joke." The guy was unfazed. "Perhaps, but the internet does not always distinguish between reality and performance. That clip is not aging well." She left the meeting with a shrug, called her best friend Kendra, and ranted as she paced the parking garage. "They're just threatened. You go viral, and suddenly everyone wants to play ethics police." But even Kendra sounded cautious. "I mean, do you ever wonder where he went?" "What?" She laughed. "You think he is sitting in a cabin somewhere planning his revenge like some indie movie anti-hero?" Emily said, "Kendra, have you ever thought that maybe he did not disappear out of shame, but out of choice?" She hung up without answering, because beneath the Instagram filters and the sponsored smoothie powder and the pinned comment about healing through humor, something started to itch, something she could not scrub away with another sassy post. People were not laughing in the same way anymore. The DMs from guys were not flirty, they were defensive. Some called her a narcissist with glitter. One woman messaged her, "He did not vanish. You erased him." That one stung because deep down, she knew something had broken in his face that night. Not rage, not humiliation, determination. And she had not seen it since, not once, not even in a tagged photo. And for someone who lived online, that silence started to sound like a siren. It started casually, as if it did not matter. A quick check of Instagram, searching his handle just to see if he had unblocked her. But the page returned the same gray screen. User not found. She tried Facebook. No results. Twitter, dead account. Even LinkedIn gave her nothing. Just an empty silhouette and a spinning wheel. No mutual connections, no history, no digital footprint. She texted his old number. A green bubble appeared. When she called, a teenager answered. "Wrong number," he said before hanging up. That is when her breath caught. Still, she pretended it was curiosity. She was not worried. She was just tying up loose ends. That is what she told herself as she messaged his sister on Facebook. "Hey, random. Hope you are well. Just wondering if you have heard from Eli at all. And I lost touch and wanted to clear the air." Seen, no reply. She checked the profile again. The next day, his sister had unfriended her. Then came the mutual friends. Trevor, from their trivia nights, she wrote, "Hey, remember Eli? And have you heard from him?" He wrote back, "Last I heard he moved away. No idea where. Kind of just dropped off the map," he added a minute later. "By the way, sorry, but can we not talk about this anymore?" She did not reply. That night, she dreamed of him. Not vividly, just flashes, a train station, a man in a hoodie turning away, a house with boarded up windows and the front door wide open, the wind slamming it against the frame. She woke up with her heart hammering in her chest and the sheets twisted as if she had been fighting something invisible. It bothered her how he had ghosted her, the woman who had built a platform on telling stories, the woman who had grown from a heartbreak. He was supposed to come crawling back, or at least exist where she could see him. So she tried his work email, the one from the old consulting firm. The reply bounced back. "The address you tried to reach is no longer in service." She contacted the company's front desk, said she was an old colleague trying to reconnect. The woman on the phone sounded wary. "Eli, he does not work here anymore. Do you know where he went?" "Sorry, I cannot disclose that." She did not even ask to leave a message. She hung up. By then, it was not about closure anymore. It was about control. And she suddenly realized she had lost it. The followers, the sponsorships, the witty captions were all built on a story she thought she controlled. A man ridiculed, a man broken, a man who ran. But he had not run. He had vanished, slipped out of her narrative like smoke through her fingers. One last attempt. She searched for an old Dropbox link he had once sent her when they were sharing travel photos. The link was dead, but there was a folder name she had not noted before. TWW folder. Don't delete. Password protected. TWW. 2 initials. 2 words. She typed in his birth date, then her name, then random combinations of phrases they used to say. Nothing worked. When she called Kendra again, her voice was tight. "He has deleted everything as if he never existed." Kendra hesitated. "Maybe that is the point." Emily paused, then scoffed. "Please. He is probably living in some sad walk-up apartment, writing poetry and pretending to be mysterious. But even as she said it, her mouth went dry. Because if that were true, why did it feel like he was the one writing her story now? Why did it feel like the final punchline was still to come? Only this time, she was not the one telling it. For years had passed. The viral clip was buried under layers of new trends and brighter scandals. The internet, as it always does, had moved on, and so had Emily, or so she liked to think. Her new startup was neat, brand safe, investor friendly. No snark, no sass, no messy past, just a platform for inclusive design or whatever phrase sounded moral enough to open wallets. She wore blazers now, had a pitch deck in 3 color schemes. She smiled in every profile picture like someone who had been coached by a TED Talk trainer. At the pre-seed pitch event in Chicago, she nailed it. Applause. Smiling judges. Even a follow-up lunch with someone from an accelerator that used to ignore her. Then the email came. Subject, update on next steps. From Blair Harwell, managing partner, Stratus Equity. Body, hi Emily. Thanks again for the great presentation. We were excited to potentially come on board. Unfortunately, after an internal review, we have decided to pull out of the funding round. One of our limited partners noted a conflict of interest related to an affiliation with another firm. 2 words. Best of luck moving forward. 2 words. She read it twice, then a third time. It rang no bells. It was not a brand she knew or a product in her sector. She Googled it. The homepage was sleek. No About Us page, just a black background, white font. 2 words ventures, supporting the silent builders. She scrolled down, no team, no bios, just logos of the startups they had funded. She recognized one, a DevOps platform she had tried to pitch her idea to 6 months earlier. They had rejected her cold. At the time, she chalked it up to bad timing. Now it smelled different. She called Kendra. Hey, have you heard of a firm called TWS? Yeah, kind of. They are the ones who funded that stealth blockchain startup last year. The one that raised $20 million without disclosing the founder. What do you mean without disclosing the founder? They are weirdly private. No photos, no press. No one knows who runs it. Emily's silence stretched on the line. Kendra filled it. Why? Are you okay? No, I'm not okay. She was already typing faster than she could think. Scanning articles, funding databases, leaked forums. Every path led to the same wall. Faceless power. She found a Reddit thread, a buried post from someone claiming to be a developer hired by one of TWKS's portfolio companies. The thread was short, it got downvoted, then deleted, but the comment remained. They don't hire founders, they adopt them. Quiet money, massive guidance, a creepy level of precision. Whoever is behind it does not want the spotlight, which makes them dangerous. Emily stared at the screen. The cursor blinked like a metronome. Her hands were cold. She checked the Hoy's info on the site. Private registration, no surprise. But the creation date caught her eye. March 15th, 2019. Exactly 2 weeks after she posted the viral breakup clip. Her mind did the math. That would have been maybe a month after he disappeared. No, impossible. Still, she searched his name alongside 2 words. Nothing. She tried his full name in every variation. Nothing. She leaned back in her chair, her heart hammering, a name she could not stop repeating. 2 words was not catchy, it was not sexy, it did not sound like a brand. It sounded like a message or a signature. And as she stared at her own reflection on the glossy surface of her laptop screen, for the first time in years, she felt it. That itch behind the curtain of certainty, that creeping dread that someone had been watching her the whole time, not to shame her, but to outmaneuver her quietly, intentionally, completely. And now he had a name, only it was not one she could say out loud. The Seattle Tech Convention was exactly the kind of event she used to mock. Panels of nerds, overpriced coffee, grown men in hoodies pretending to change the world. But now she needed it. Desperately, her startup's cash flow had dwindled to nothing. After 3 potential deals fell through in a month, she needed one investor, just one. One who did not care about Twitter scandals or old, problematic clips that still lingered in algorithmic purgatory. So when her assistant Jen rushed in mid-panel, whispering, "A rep from a major private fund wants to talk. He requested you personally." Emily lit up like a freshly struck match. "Which fund?" Jen shrugged. He would not say, just asked for Emily from Design Systems. "Wants a private room." Now. She did not ask questions. She smoothed her blazer, touched up her lipstick, and followed. The room was 2 floors up, tucked behind a black curtain labeled reserved. It felt more like a luxury hotel suite than a meeting space. Matte black walls, soft lighting, a crystal carafe on the table, nothing cheap or makeshift. And then the door clicked shut behind her. He turned. The man in the dark suit did not speak immediately. He did not have to. Her brain short-circuited before her body could respond. The same jawline, the same quiet posture, but sharper now, harder, as if its edges had been worn smooth by silence instead of time. Her throat went instantly dry. "Eli." He gave a single nod. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. "So how? How did you do it?" His hands remained loosely in his pockets. No arrogance, no gloating, just a composure so pure it could crush bone. He walked slowly forward, stopping just short of the table that separated him. 2 words, he said. She blinked. "What?" he repeated, his voice like glass under pressure. 2 words. Then he leaned forward, almost as if offering a gift, and said them. Whatever they were, she never repeated them. She collapsed. Her knees hit the plush carpet. Her bag fell sideways because in that moment, everything broke. Not just the recognition, the connection. Suddenly, every lost deal, Every pulled sponsorship, every polite refusal made perfect, horrifying sense. The DevOps platform, the silent rejections, the investor who had ghosted her mid-email chain, it was him. He had not just outplayed her. He had been orbiting her collapse in a calculated, patient silence. The punchline was not loud. It was not cruel. It was architectural. She gasped, trying to speak, her eyes filling. Was it guilt, rage, or the horror of realizing he had become something so much bigger than her story had ever allowed? You, she croaked, but he was already walking to the door. Don't bother pitching, he said softly, his hand on the knob. You have already made your presentation. Click, he was gone. No goodbyes, no insults, just the echo of two words, still twisting like a knife behind her ribs. And in the silence, her entire empire felt like it was made of paper soaked in gasoline. Her knees had barely hit the carpet when the flashback began. Not in real time, but in memory, in the kind of understanding that does not unfold gently, but collapses like scaffolding all around you. His voice, cool and serene, echoed in her thoughts as if narrating a documentary she had never agreed to be in. 2 words, he had said. Your father. At first, she did not process it. Her mind scrambled to make it metaphorical. A phrase, a brand slogan she had missed. But no, he meant it literally. And once that truth cracked the surface, everything she thought she knew began to rot from the inside. Her father, Arthur Hammond, venture capitalist, board member of 3 clean tech startups. Once on TechBridge's 40 under 40 list, he had been the one man in her life who had made her feel like success was both possible and expected. He signed the first check when she pitched her first startup out of a shared WeWork. He made introductions, attended her launch party in an impeccable suit and a proud smile, and then he quietly disappeared. No scenes, no fights, no last tearful phone call. He had pulled out of her second venture just before the funding closed. She had been furious. She claimed he was trying to control her. She told her friends, he is threatened by my independence. The truth, he never once responded. She had written him off as another overbearing man who could not handle her. But now, knees bruised on the convention carpet, the adrenaline draining down her spine, she saw it clearly. He had not abandoned her. He had chosen a side, and it was not hers. She remembered the night of the joke, how her father had left early, saying something about a morning flight, how his jaw had tightened when she joked about Eli's therapy, how he had not laughed when she mimicked Eli's voice with an anxious exaggeration. Dad, relax, she had told him then. It is content. He had just looked at her in silence, just like Eli. She had thought he was disappointed. Maybe he was, but now she saw it for what it was, strategy. A man with decades of experience who knew when to talk and when to act in silence. And he had acted. She opened her browser with trembling fingers, searching again for the formation date of 2 Words Ventures. March 15th, 2019. Exactly 376 days after the dinner party. Exactly 2 quarters after her father pulled all funding from her next project. That same quarter, according to old industry newsletters, he stepped down from his board seats. No press releases, no headlines, just a quiet disappearance from the public eye. Because he was not retiring, he was reinvesting in him, and in the man she had mocked in front of his peers and a camera. The man who never yelled, never fought back. The man her father had quietly deemed worthy. And not just worthy, but an heir. Her stomach churned with a kind of betrayal she could not even name. Because this was not just about being left behind. It was about being replaced, not by another daughter, not by a son, but by a quiet storm she had unleashed herself. A storm her father had watched, calculated, and harnessed. And the name, 2 words, was not marketing, it was not symbolism, it was a personal signature, a quiet nod from one silent man to another. Her father had left her not because she had failed, but because she had mistaken cruelty for power. And the man she had humiliated had been funded, shaped, and forged by the very bloodline she thought was hers exclusively. Now she was sitting on the floor of a rented room at a tech convention with her designer heels kicked to the side, her reflection visible on the glass table, and all she could see was her own irrelevance. After she finally stumbled out of that meeting room, her knees aching and her pride in tatters, she did not go back to her booth. She did not check her emails. She did not text her assistant. She booked a room on the top floor of the same hotel, handed her card to the clerk with trembling fingers, mumbled something about a migraine, and took the elevator up alone. Only when the door closed behind her did she finally, not collapse, but sit down on the edge of the bed. Her phone buzzed twice. It was probably Jen asking where she had gone, but she did not look. She just stared at the wall, at the nothingness, until she opened her email. Not to pitch, not to plan, but to search. She still had access to her father's old messages. He had once given her the login to his assistant's shared inbox for when she needed help coordinating investor meetings. She had never bothered to delete it from her phone. The password still worked. She typed in his name, Eli Marin. 23 results. And just like that, the lie she had lived in for 4 years began to fracture. The first email was dated 4 days after the infamous dinner party. Subject, no strings introduction. From Arthur Jameson to Eli Marinelli. I want to start by apologizing. What happened the other night was inexcusable. I said nothing, and I should have. You did not deserve that. I know you are probably not in a place to talk, but if you ever want to discuss anything at all, it would be my honor to buy you a coffee. No strings, no judgment, just respect. Arthur, that was the first domino. The next few emails showed a slow progression. A coffee, then a draft of a non-disclosure agreement, then a series of internal memos marked confidential. detailing the early ideas for a silent, venture capital firm that would prioritize underdog founders with no social clout, but real grit. Read the name, 2 words. In one message, Arthur wrote, "He does not want to be famous, he wants to build." I underestimated that kind of power for too long. Not anymore. There were spreadsheets, cap tables, agendas for private mentorship meetings. No public relations strategy, no content calendar, no social media team, just structure, infrastructure, long-term vision. It was everything Emily had pretended to do, but with none of the noise. And then she found it. A scanned excerpt from Arthur's private journal sent to his lawyer, labeled Personal Legacy Notes, included a single paragraph about his daughter. Emily always chased the applause. She needed a crowd to know who she was. I enabled that. I wanted her to win, but I never taught her how. She measures success in followers. Eli measures it in foundations. I will die knowing I backed the right one. Her breath caught. There it was, the verdict, written in her own father's words. Not public, not performative. A private truth unearthed years too late. She closed the laptop because there was no comeback, no public relations spin, no influencer collaboration to bury the pain. She had built a brand. He had built an empire, and the worst part, she had not lost to him. She had handed him the crown. With every smug post, every witty caption, every laugh she wrung from his humiliation, she had been digging the dirt for her own burial. Eli had not destroyed her. He had just built something bigger and waited for her to realize how small she had become beside it. And now she was just a girl in a hotel room reading her father's will, while the man she broke sat on top of everything she thought was hers. Powerless, silent, and finally, alone in the echo of her own applause. The first investor pulled out quietly, no confrontation, no calls, just a bland email citing an internal reprioritization. Emily had seen enough of those to know what it meant. We saw something we did not like, and we are not sticking around to get burned. The second exit hurt more. It was Ian, the founder of SynthLogic, someone Emily had once shared a stage with, someone who had met her saying, "Love the new platform," just a month before. The official withdrawal came with a thin veneer of corporate politeness, but the subtext was clear. Given the emerging online discourse around your past public content, we feel it is best to pause our collaboration until reputational alignment can be clarified. That was the phrase that broke her, reputational alignment. She had not heard those words since HR sat her down with their polite little warning folder 4 years ago. Still, she told herself it would blow over. The internet's attention span was shorter than a fruit fly's. A day or two and this too would fade, until it did not. Until someone on X, formerly Twitter, found the original clip and reposted it with the caption, "Remember when this woman publicly humiliated her partner for views? Guess who is funding the guy she tried to bury?" It went viral again, this time not with applause, but with pitchforks. Not funny anymore. She used shame as a weapon to gain clout. Hope she enjoys the collapse. She messed with the wrong guy. This is poetic justice. Then came the screenshots. Not just the clip, but her old captions, tweets, the cries after sex, audio layered over trending audios. Someone dug up a 2020 podcast where she bragged about editing his panic attack to make the story punchier. That was the final nail. TechCrunch ran a headline the next day. Startup star's past comes back to haunt her. Founder's viral humiliation clip derails Series A round. The comments were not just brutal, they were precise. People were referencing TWS in half the threads. Some speculated that maybe she knew who ran 2 words and thought she could get him back. Maybe he waited years just for this takedown. Slow burn revenge. No one knew the truth, which made it worse. Her assistant, Jen, quit via email. "This has become too toxic for my mental health. Best of luck." By the time she refreshed her cap table dashboard, the numbers were in freefall. Valuation halved in a week. 2 remaining advisors had removed her from their bios. Her startup's Twitter bio, formerly Building the Future with Empathy, became a laughingstock. The apology video came next. She sat on her living room floor in a gray sweatshirt, no makeup, her eyes puffy. "I just want to say I'm sorry to anyone I hurt, especially Eli." She paused, trying to summon tears. They did not come. She posted it. The top comment read, "You are not sorry. You are broke." Another, "Too little. Too late. TWS." The ensuing silence was even worse. No engagement spikes, no redemption arc, no one high-profile sharing it with a "she deserves another chance." Just digital exhaustion. She checked her banking app one morning and stared at the dwindling runway. The lease was up in 6 months. Renewal was not an option, neither was pivoting the company. No one was returning her calls. She called Kendra. Voicemail. She opened Twitter. 2 words was trending, but not because of her, because of him. A new Fast Company article had just dropped. Inside the fund that builds giants in silence. Meet 2 words. There was no picture of Eli, just a black square, 2 words in white. She refreshed the page over and over, each time hoping something would change. But the descent was now terminal. They were not ignoring her. They were quietly, permanently, moving past her. And this time, there was no punchline to land on, just gravity. It had been 6 months since the last investor pulled out. Her startup officially dissolved 3 weeks ago quietly with the kind of sterile legal emails that don't even bother to pretend they are sorry. The shutdown was not dramatic. No public scandal, no messy exit interview, just a whimpering cessation of operations, like a candle snuffed out from a lack of oxygen rather than force. She had moved to a smaller apartment, away from the downtown where tech dreams were once built on rooftops with skyline views and branded kombucha in the fridge. Her current view was a brick wall and a dumpster that howled when the wind blew hard. She had sold her Peloton, returned the designer clothes she had posted about, and started writing clickbait content under a pseudonym for a freelance platform that paid just enough to cover rent if she skipped every third meal. One gray morning, walking back from the grocery store, eggs, instant ramen, the cheapest almond milk she could find, she saw it. A billboard, jet black, unadorned, just a serif font, clean, tall, and unmoved. 2 words Ventures, supporting the silent builders. Her grocery bag ripped as she stopped. The eggs smashed in slow motion on the sidewalk. There was a QR code in the bottom corner. She scanned it with trembling hands, the ramen now soaking her sneakers. A press release opened. 2 words Ventures launches a $100 million fund to empower founders silenced by scandal, undervalued by institutions, or betrayed by those closest to them. She did not blink, just kept scrolling. The article mentioned no names, no photos, no gloating. Until the video. She clicked. It began with a soft piano, a montage of washed-out headlines, social media vitriol, faces blurred to protect the fallen. Then Eli, immaculate suit, neutral background, hands clasped. No rage, no smugness, just stillness. He looked directly into the camera and spoke with clarity. This is not revenge. Some people teach you who not to become. We are here for the ones who kept building anyway. Cut to black. The screen read. 2 words. We don't publish, we produce. That was it. No call to action. No applause. No hashtags. Just a dagger of restraint. She dropped the phone. It hit the pavement screen down, cracking like a spiderweb instantly. There were no tears. Not because she was not devastated, but because the devastation had long since dried up and calcified into something worse. Understanding. He had not erased her. He had not attacked her. He had simply outgrown her in an absolute, irreversible silence. And she, who once believed success meant being seen, being loud, being adored, now sat in a dark apartment where the only light came from the broken refrigerator. And the only sound was the occasional buzz of a phone that no longer rang. No likes, no mentions, no apologies to offer, just silence. And in that silence, 2 words kept echoing, not screamed, not tweeted, just remembered.